Feeding Hubert is the rather adorable first segment of the 21st episode of the second season of Rugrats. And I have to say, I really enjoyed it, but one thing did annoy me. It was kind of celebrating multiple trips to the recycling point. And that's not a good thing, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. But this one is all about Hubert, who is actually the garbage truck, the bin lorry, and Chuckie is quite scared of it when he realises it's not just something he's been dreaming. And Tommy says it's okay because their parents put out garbage and Hubert can eat it. Now, it's called Hubert because the driver is called Hubert, and the worker who's picking up the trash calls out to Hubert, and I have to say that's pretty cute. It's a nice look at child perception and how they perceive, or how they don't realise that it's actually the name of the driver, which I thought was very cute. And Hubert is going to be very hungry because Didi's been doing great work with promoting recycling, and because somebody from a television network is coming to interview her, they decide that they can only put out one can of garbage the following day. And Tommy overhears this and begins to panic that Hubert won't have enough food because obviously they're used to putting out quite a few cans of garbage. And the babies take it upon themselves to gather as much, well, I was going to say as much household waste, but just as many things from inside the home and shove it into the garage with the hope of their parents taking it out to the curb so Hubert doesn't go hungry. And I think it was pretty clear what was going to happen. And I have to say I rather liked it. It was a decent narrative. I think Hubert, just as a concept, was a lot of fun. They're very noisy, loud machines. And I can imagine children being quite scared of them. The whole baby Huberts thing was absolutely adorable. And I think Angelica had a really good role to play as well. It was kind of her idea to gather up household objects to feed to Hubert, which rather amused me. But the thing that annoyed me, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but the television network, the woman from the network who's interviewing Didi, was trying to get them to say how many times they went to the recycling each week. But that's not a good thing. If you're going to the recycling multiple times in a week, that means you're using too much. Like, nobody should have to go to the recycling that frequently, because that means you're using a lot of products that have non-reusable packaging or things that need to be recycled. And there's the kind of a fine point between recycling and just being a consumer who's using too much stuff. Like, recycling's great, but it still takes up energy. It's still not as good as reusing or, just not using things when you don't need to. So somebody going to the recycling point multiple times a week when they're just a household, a 4-person family with grandpa, that's not a good thing. It really isn't. But beyond that did irritate me a bit. But other than that, it was obviously promoting recycling and the fact that it's actually really beneficial. And if you recycle, the noisy Hubert won't need to come around as much because he won't need to collect as much household waste. You'll just have the little baby Huberts instead, which I just thought was adorable. Also, I feel like it's quite forward-thinking. This was released, 1993, I think. And I know in the UK we didn't have recycling waste, domestic recycling, as early as 1993. So I don't know if America was just way ahead of the time and that was something that was brought in, or if the show was ahead of its time. I'm not sure, but certainly in the UK, most homes didn't have domestic recycling. So thank goodness we do now. But definitely, it might have encouraged some people to go to the recycling at the time. But hopefully not multiple times a week, because A, that's going to use up fuel. B, that's a lot of waste for one small family. Other than that, feeding Hubert was rather adorable.